Wow. So this film is getting a lot of bad reviews. uh, what's up, everybody? I'm Mac from MacTheMovieGuy.com, and this is my take on The Bubble. It's the new Netflix film. It's interesting that this week we got two films released straight to Netflix. One was directed by Judd Apatow, and the other is directed by Richard Linklater. And not enough people are talking about that. Everybody's caught up in Craven or Morbius or whatever. Those were two big directors, and they both dropped Netflix films this week. So I'm hoping to review the other one here shortly. So what do we got here with The Bubble? First of all, I'm a blind movie critic, so you're going to end up hearing stuff about audio description and less about the special effects. So, I don't know what those dinosaurs look like. I just don't. I don't know how good they look. I've heard their special effects look pretty decent, for all things considered. So let's just get right into it. The plot needs very little description. It's a film about the pandemic, and it's a movie crew and cast that are trapped inside of a London hotel trying to finish the sixth film in a ridiculous franchise. And it has an amazingly stacked cast. Just this film is full of people. It even has cameos from big names like James McAvoy just pops up out of nowhere. So, yeah. So that's what the film is about. They're trapped inside of one of those shooting bubbles where you're on location and you can't leave and you're trapped in your hotel room, and they're shooting the film green screen with these dinosaurs and trying to complete it. But as the film progresses, the shoot gets more and more insane and crazy things keep happening, and people hate this movie. They just hate this movie. I've seen some reviews on here on YouTube. Just total hate. And let me address this. First of all, one, for all you other movie critics out there, satire is hard. This is satire. It's the same conversation we just had a couple months ago when everybody was divided on Don't Look Up. Remember, there were a whole bunch of people that really didn't like Don't Look Up, and we all laughed about the Rotten Tomatoes score when it got a Best Picture nomination, but then there were other people that really loved Don't Look Up, and it got like a SAG nomination for Best Ensemble. So it's hard. It doesn't register with everybody. That's why when you get one that really nails it, that really captures the essence of the time in which it is satirizing, like Dr. Strangelove, it ends up just lasting forever. It's just this film that just remains. I think the second problem is that people went into this expecting a Judd Apatow film. And I think Judd Apatow was held at gunpoint and forced to write a script, and he just nervously wrote this because arguably this is his worst script and his worst direction, and it doesn't even feel like him. It feels like a Happy Madison production a little bit at times. Like there are things in here that he never would have chosen to do in any of his other films. So I don't really understand what he was trying to do with The Bubble or why he was making those choices. And I think if you had come at this film thinking about it being done by a different director, or if you just forget that it's a Judd Apatow film, you'll find more enjoyment in it. Personally, I think Mike Judge should have directed this film. That's who I would have put behind the camera. It feels a little bit closer to Idiocracy than it does any of the films Judd Apatow has ever done, or TV series. It just feels a lot closer to Idiocracy and Beavis and Butthead and that style of humor. There are a lot of things that happen in the film, like, man, there's a lot of bodily fluid jokes. And, I just railed on Home Team a little while ago for an unnecessary, the worst thing I hated about that film was this unnecessary projectile vomit scene that just made no sense. Where people just started projectile vomiting all over the place. and that happens in this film, and it's so unnecessary, and they just talk about it, and they're like, should we stop it? And it's like, no, let's just see where it goes. And it's like, what? Yeah, there's a scene where, we got to make sure that we see the whole vomiting into a toilet, and then they do the quick switch so that they can also have the diarrhea moment. So they got to get up and get on the toilet because it's coming out both ends. And there's a I wet my pants joke that goes on for too long, so much so that the character actually is like, can we stop now? Like, do we need to keep doing this joke? Which was exactly what I was thinking, and then like they voiced it out loud. I was like, okay. So and then we have this weird thing later on in the film where the actors, while they're shooting the movie, are told that they have to shoot the glowing testicles of the dinosaurs, and then they have these long discussions about the testicles of these dinosaurs, and I'm like, well, that's why it's supposed to look like jellyfish or something. It does not feel like a Judd Apatow film. This film is too stupid to be a Judd Apatow film. It really is. I think either his career is over, and if this is the best he's got, man, give up, Judd. Because the only redeemable factor to this film is the cast. The cast came to play, and the cast make a lot of really funny things happen with nothing. Like, Fred Armisen's character doesn't even make sense. His character just constantly is shifting, like, character choices and decisions, and it's just his character is far too malleable. He has different he's different in like every scene almost. Like, by the end of the film, I don't even know what happened to the trajectory of his character. There are some scenes where he's like incredibly mild-mannered and sort of quirky and weird, and then other scenes where he's like a nightmare. And it's so inconsistent with his character. It doesn't even make sense. Sometimes he's afraid to take charge, and other times he's like over domineering, but Fred Armisen showed up for every scene. You got Fred Armisen, he did great work with a character that was total shit. Kate McKinnon is hilarious in this film. She plays like a studio executive, and like every line delivery from her is hilarious. Karen Gillan is great in this film. She's hilarious. Surprisingly, Pedro Pascal is really funny in this. Iris Apatow is funny. Leslie Mann, in the little bit we get to see of her, is funny. They're all poking fun at actors and celebrities themselves. So it's cool to see that. I loved Keegan-Michael Key in this. I loved the helicopter thing where they're like, they only taught me how to go up. Some of it is so dumb that it is funny. And these critics that are seeing the film and they're like acting like this is the worst thing that they've seen in like a long time. I'm like, did you really not laugh? Like, none of this was funny to you? Because some of it is so stupid it's funny. Because the commitment by the actors to what they're saying is just so hilarious at certain points in the film that you can't help but laugh. I did actually laugh in this film, and I can't say I didn't. I can't just be like, F, this is an F film, fail, because that's just not true. I did laugh during this film multiple times. And I actually do think the cast did a great job with a shitty script. It is not a good script. I know there's been some debate about whether or not a pandemic film is what we need right now. This is a comedy, first of all. If it was a drama or a horror film or something, maybe we could have that conversation. But sometimes it's hard to laugh at something when you're in the middle of experiencing it. I think this is the perfect time, or even a year later from now would have been a perfect time to release this film. When you have to get out of something in order to laugh at it. You can't laugh at something while you're experiencing it. If we made a if like tomorrow, like a comedy was released that was like about the war with Russia and Ukraine, people would be like, oh my God, this is bad timing. You know, yeah, because it's currently going on, you know. But, you know, later on, you end up releasing something like Jojo Rabbit, and people are like, oh, okay. You know, I mean, how many years did it take to be able to make something like Jojo Rabbit happen, though? Think about that. You know, so sometimes you really have to figure out how far out from something does it need to be in order for you to be able to make the joke you're trying to make. And with The Bubble, I think it waited long enough, because it's not like this is an epic film that we were going to love for all time. It's definitely Judd Apatow's worst, but you have to go into this film thinking like, this is not a Judd Apatow film, because it doesn't play like one, it doesn't read like one, it's not as smart as one. It doesn't follow any of the things that he usually does. This film is sold entirely on the cast. The cast make jokes work that shouldn't work, that a different cast would not have been able to make work. What succeeded here was the fact that they assembled an incredibly talented cast of characters for this film. That's why it works. Also, I really love Wings of Stone. I loved so much Wings of Stone. I would definitely, I really want that song to be nominated. I don't know what other songs are going to come around this year, but I really want Adam Levine on the Oscar stage performing Wings of Stone next year. So if we can make that happen, that song was hilarious. It plays during the end credits, so make sure you stay and listen to that, and make sure you actually listen to the lyrics. Don't just like enjoy it and think like this is just some generic rock song. Actually listen to what he's saying, and you'll be like, oh my God, what is this? And it feels so appropriately stupid for what you just watched. Yeah, it was great. It was great. Yeah. I moved my score up an entire point on my scoring scale after Wings of Stone. I was like, I think I'm going to give this film, yeah, that's probably my grade. And then the credits start rolling and Wings of Stone is playing, and I'm like, I love this song. Yeah, we're going to move it up one more. So yeah, Wings of Stone actually brought the film up one full point for me. So yeah, audio description does a really good job. I would have really actually loved to see this really crappy dinosaur movie that they're making. I was really excited every time we did a cutaway, because a lot of times they take those scenes seriously. It's like they're fully shot and they're like totally cut away. It's not totally green screened. It's just how the scene would be if we were watching that movie. And I really want to, if it feels like a Sharknami type of thing, and I'm down for it. So yeah, if they ever happen to release like a supercut of all of those scenes put together, I'll come back and rewatch, you know, the Bubble supercut of all those dinosaur scenes put together. But yeah, so it does a good job. Those are probably the hardest scenes to describe, are going to be those science fiction dinosaur scenes. There are scenes that I have to say the audio description, I would normally say the audio description does not succeed, except for the fact that it succeeds as well as it can. This film is very dialogue heavy, so much so that it becomes really hard for a narrator to get a word in. You know, we don't like our narrators to talk on top of other people. That's like a big no-no. And sometimes I talk about how we can get more narration because there are these big, long gaps of silence. And when we can, the narrator will drop in with descriptive narration. But there are scenes, and we do miss transitions because the actors never stop talking. There are scenes where multiple characters are in a room and I don't know who's in the room, where we've transitioned straight from one scene into another, but it's like characters are like yelling at each other, and you like we keep missing transitions, and you don't necessarily really know where you are. But that's just how that's the pacing of the film, the way it's edited, and the fact that the dialogue doesn't stop. Like, there's no place to put the audio description in those scenes to let us know where we're at. So I think the audio description, I will admit that there are elements of it that are inadequate, but there's nothing that they could have done about that. There, in those moments, except talk on top of other actors, which is like one of the cardinal sins of doing audio description, is to not have audio description narration on top of dialogue. And I understand that. So I'm saying it's as good as audio description as you can possibly get. It's just that this film has elements that will leave you wondering and scratching your head a little bit, because the audio description can't save you, and you're just going to have to try to follow the scene, and you'll pick up again later when the audio description is able to come in and actually help you. So so that's The Bubble. The thing is, I don't really care what other critics say, and I don't really care what audiences say. This is like a 4 point something on IMDb and like a 30 Metacritic score, and critics are lambasting it. But I laughed, and I gave Home Team a good review. I don't care if a movie works for me, if it makes me laugh, if it does what it set out to do in some form. I'm not going to ignore that. Are there parts of this film that are terrible? Yes, there are parts of this film that are god awful. There are characters that don't make any sense. There are scenes that don't work. There's humor in this film that is asinine. There's so many things about this film that don't work. And I will admit that I was going to give this a slightly above average score of C+, and then I swapped it up to B-, just because of Wings of Stone. So it's getting a B- just because I loved Wings of Stone so much. I'm actually going to keep listening to Wings of Stone. Like, it's in my playlist now. Like, it's going to be a song that I know. I actually think Wings of Stone is funnier than Don't Look Up. Yeah. So, yeah, I thought it was hilarious. So this is it's a C+ if you don't want to stay for the credits. If you're willing to stay for the credits and listen to Wings of Stone, it's a B-. So that's where we're at with The Bubble. Yeah, it's not as bad as you would assume if you're willing to just accept the stupidity of it, and the fact that they're making fun of Hollywood and a lot of dumb stuff that actors do, and a lot of dumb actors, and a lot of dumb studio executives and dumb directors, and just the whole thing. It is a mockery. It is supposed to be satire. It's just not always well done. And the humor in the film doesn't always land. That's just what you're going to have to accept. This is absolutely Judd Apatow's worst film. I will concede that. I love Judd Apatow. I love his body of work. This is the worst thing he's ever done, but it also doesn't feel like a Judd Apatow film. So I don't know what happened. There's nothing about this film that if I went into this film blind and did not know that he was the writer or director of this film, I would never have guessed it in a million years. If you had asked me to guess 100 directors who could have possibly directed this film, he would not have made that list. That's how not Judd Apatow this film feels. The only thing that really gives it away is casting of Iris Apatow and Leslie Mann. That's maybe the only thing that might have made me go, maybe it's a Judd Apatow film. That's it. That's the only thing, is the fact that his family's in the film. So let me know what you think in the comments. Yeah, I'm like one of the only people that actually is kind of recommending this, lightly recommending this. So if you don't like it, I'm sorry. I'm totally admitting a lot of people didn't like this, but I did. And I'm not just going to jump on a film just because everybody else is. That's not how I play. So let me know what you think in the comments. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe, and go to macthemovieguy.com for more of my stuff. And as always, check out the audio description project for more titles that have audio description. Until next time, make sure to stay out of the bubble.